celebrate the wonderful life of Losis, Goose, Lucy, Doug Gilbert, Bruce Zabriskie, Bruce Morgan, just a few of the aliases he used in his adventure. Perhaps an alias from the law, perhaps an alias to disguise a challenged upbringing. Today I am modelling one of Bruce's David Bain jerseys. And a lovely tweed jacket, woolen of course, representing Scotland, made in the far distant city of Wellington. It's a bit hot. Oh, and just for an extra touch, the lovelies. Thank you all for coming today to celebrate the life of Bruce. For those who don't know me, I am Bruce's brother John, or his circles, Brother John. We've got a family amongst our friends today. Bailey, his son Felix from Melbourne, and Matt, who had been here quite a few times over the last month, is Bailey's partner, who can't be here today but is here in spirit. Joe's Bruce's son and kind caregiver to Bruce over the last 18 months. Bruce was extremely grateful to Joe for the care he gave him right to the very end. We have Chloe, Bruce's other daughter, and her family, Dave, Oscar, Otis and Ruth. Kim, Joe's mother, and her daughter Zara, Wendy, Davey and Chloe's mum. My family, Daisha, Juno, Sam, Rosa, Ari and Shanti, who was unable to get a flight from growing up home, and Chris, my brother. We thank you all for being here today to celebrate Bruce. I'm going to hand it over to Bailey.
He loved battle, and he got great joy from antagonising people, especially if those people were authority figures. He taught me from an early age to always challenge the status quo and stand up for what I believe in. He didn't like it so much when I started to challenge him and stand up for him. He loved to fight for the underdog, even when the underdog was just, well, his dog. He wrote a few angry letters on behalf of his best four-legged mate, Billy. Whether you were on the right or wrong side of a Bruce tirade, you can't deny he had passion. He never did things half-assed. He always did them loudly, inappropriately, with a lot of colour, a few fuck yous, and more recently, a sword and a kick. He loved his friends and family. He loved his community. He loved motorbikes and fishing, marijuana, and he loved to party. He really was so much fun, and he lived a really big life. There are many favourite stories from his previous life as a naughty young man, including a pie-throwing incident and a stealing his own motorbike escapade. I can't do those stories justice, so if anyone has it for that, feel free to come up a bit later. I did want to mention what I consider to be his very last act of defiance. A couple months ago, Dad was getting pretty sick, not able to walk, not very far, couldn't really do a lot, but he still found time to be pissed off. And there's a new cell tower across the road from his house that had been particularly indignant about. After failing to recruit anyone to help him with his nefarious plan, he used all his energy to roll his ute backwards across the road, lean out of the seat, and spray paint "Not My King" on the offending cell tower. Then he went back to bed. I think it's still there. I wanted to finish on a sweeter story. I've never been in any doubt as to how much he loved me. And he always showed it in his own way. Quite recently, in February this year, after I had my baby, Dad came over to visit us in Melbourne. I'd mentioned in passing that Australia has shit biscuits. They do. And I miss toffee pops. Anyway, he shows up at the airport in his kit with his walking stick, 2 bottles of whiskey, and a shabby suitcase. That suitcase was entirely filled with toffee pops. There was nothing else in there. 36 buckets of them. He didn't even bring a spare t-shirt. And I'm so grateful that he got to meet Felix. He loved him so much. And I'm so sad that he won't get to watch him grow up. He had been
schools, where Bruce was an altar boy, but not altered. He would suggest. I think he was altered, but not in the capital. To the fast right lane of the motorcycles and whiskey, Bruce was a builder, a mechanic, an inventor, a fermenter, a friend, a partner and a dad. Always up for a challenge, always ready for adventure. His younger days were not the most nurturing for an exuberant boy, and mischief was never far from the surface. This was driven from an adventurous and explorative nature of a boy who found his purpose in a renegade left-field pathway, always thinking outside of the box. Joe.
First things first, thank you everybody for taking time out of your day to celebrate the life of Bruce Morgan. Bruce was heavily involved in community projects the last kind of 30 years, 3 decades. He was the driving force to getting stuff done. He was always just do it, just do it that way at all. So I'm going to list a few things that he was involved in the last 3 decades. The Te Primary PTA, junior soccer, coaching and managing, the organisation and the running of the five-a-side soccer tournaments in Aroha. He also organised local trolley derbies and he drove me around the country with multiple trolley derbies. The driving force behind the skate park in Aroha and the Three Wheelers Club back in the day. Pushed heavily for a dog park. If you're a local, you would have seen multiple letters to the editor of dog parks. Heavily involved in the community garden, running for local council, being on the community board, and being Santa multiple times. I'll leave you some great quotes from Mr. Morgan. Always back the underdog. Smoke more pot. Don't let a little bit of bullshit and prepare for good stories. Up the kilts.
Welcome to join us with an up the kilts if you feel so. As soon as Bruce could, he pursued a freedom of expression on motorcycles and that lack of that dislike for authority other than his own thoughts. On this ride, Bruce showed his big heart, rallying for the people who didn't have much and always willing to take the first proactive step. In his youth, some of you will remember, it often meant that Bruce threw the first punch. And even if he lost the fight, it always seemed to Bruce that he came out best. I remember one story, I probably would have been about 14, and we're hitching down the South Island, I think it was Lawrence. We're having trouble. There's 4 of us, my sister Kay, myself and Bruce and his partner at the time. And we're stranded, couldn't get a lift, 4 of us, mind you, and we're from Auckland, so probably had that written all over us. So we decided to camp on the side of the road, and we went and got some beers from the local pub up the road and camped out, and obviously some young people had seen us. And later on that night, a big group of these young people came down and parked up the road and got out of their cars and started walking down to us. Bruce immediately jumped up, got out in the middle of the road, smashed the beer bottle, held it up, and said, "The first fucking cunt who comes up here gets this." Well, they talked amongst each other, turned around, got into their cars, and drove away. I felt like it was a good lesson for a 14-year-old younger brother. Always stand up for your rights and always take that first step. How are you feeling?
I just wanted to get up here and say a few words. Crazy, cranky, grumpy, rambunctious, dramatic, exuberant, salubrious. These are all words that remind me of Bruce. Bruce came into my life when I was 5 years old, when he came to live with me and my mum, and we lived up in Hokianga.
I went to school up there, and one of the things I remember was, you know, when you're at school, when you're 5 years old, you usually have to write a little thing or draw a picture about your family and your house. So I did that. I drew this house on this piece of paper, and I drew me and my mum and Bruce. This great big plant. Very good up to the sun. Leave it up to your imagination as what it plant would be. And then after Hokianga, we moved down to Waikino. And a few of you will probably remember one of these cycles. Bruce started up his shop there. He taught me how to care for my bikes, my push bikes. And one of the things I remember was he acquired this nifty 50. It's a little scooter, you know, this little thing. It wasn't really his cup of tea, what he used to like to ride. So he promptly made it into a sidecar for me. And me and the neighbourhood kids spent years on that thing. It was so cool, we were the coolest kids in town. So that, and then just all throughout my life, Bruce has been there. And the most important parts, if you ever needed somebody to stand up for you, and if you ever had something going on in your life, Bruce would be right there and you'd be all over it. And then in more recent times, we've had some good chats along our long drives to and from Waikino Hospital. Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, thinking about that, I remember a tragedy that I had in my life about 10, 15 years ago, and I was so numbed by it. Just didn't know what to do. Finally rang Bruce up, and first thing he said is, "Coming up, you spent a good month with me, helping me find myself again." And I think, that's a memory we'll hold dear about Bruce. It's just his willingness to be there for people, to want to help. He had a big heart. Of course, that big heart often resulted in some of us receiving the Bruce banishment. For some indiscretion, that remained in place until Bruce might forget it. Some of us received banishment all at once. Such is brotherly love, often a fight, but always a deep understanding. That passion for motorcycles, I was always a bit puzzled by it, because Bruce would, have a perfectly good motorbike and would completely pull it apart, restore it and put it back together again, and then pull it apart again. What I realised is that for Bruce, the thing he loved was the restoration, the art of motorcycle mechanics. He'd be able to turn his mind off and become absorbed in what he was doing. It's kind of a Zen thing for Bruce. Also a thespian, who'd jump at the opportunity to parade in his kilt and tell stories of Jacobite decree. It often seemed that should have been the time he was born, an age he longed for, and he lived his Scottish heritage close to his heart. I'd just like to invite anyone else who would like to come up and tell a story about Bruce. It might just be a couple of sentences. You're welcome just to stand where you are, or stay in your seat, or come up here. Yeah.
Up the kilts.
Up the kilts.
That was the greeting we got every time. Any more scabies in here? One or two maybe. Come on, Fletch.
Up the kilts.
You're not lucky we haven't got a musical instrument. What you wish for? You're telling us to fuck off.
So you might be forgiven, for me anyway, this is how we met, Bruce and I. But actually, over 20 years ago, Bruce was the main builder in a house that was building not too far from there. And when you stand sort of side by side hammering in nails all day into wood, you get to know a person quite well. And that's what happened again one day when we were come back from Scotland, and I'd said to Bruce, I've got a challenge here. I showed him a picture of a group that was in Scotland called Clanedonia, and there was a piper and a whole lot of people playing the drums, all dressed like this, and he jumped onto it. Bruce jumped onto the whole thing, and several of us just happened to meet at the right time. It's all about time in life, isn't it? And he got so much behind it. All the people in here and Bruce, we decided, let's form a group to match this, and that's what we did. And we called ourselves the Skiers. At the kilts became a famous saying all the time. Wherever he went, it was him that always raised it. It's my number plate, kilt, K1LT, at the kilt. And it's largely because he kept saying it to me. You just repeat it to yourself all the time. It was a sort of our message when we greeted each other or when we left. On all his emails or his texts at the kilts. So it was a great time for us. We did some awesome projects. We played 1 year at Pyro a Tattoo. Maybe it's a good thing. There's not a lot of photographic video stuff around. But we had a lot of fun. Honestly, it was a very special time for this Scotsman to come over here and to go to Highland Games and march behind all the crowds. And because we were different, we're not always dressed like this. Ian here is more like what we used to look like, with the plaid and everything else. And carrying some swords. I think we were a fearsome lot, to be honest with you. Anyway, Bruce was never content with that look of having side drums or whatever. So he got this enormous plastic 45-gallon drum, covered it in a deerskin, and got sheep's bones shaped, and used to hit it with them. Absolutely amazing, you know. And I'm going to search out memories of that. It's one of mine. So for us, I suppose I'm speaking on behalf of the Skiers, you know, Bruce, you were a great guy for us, you know. Just at the right time, we had a lot of fun. But I lived in Te Aroha for a time, and my best memory is this guy arriving one day in this little baby Austin car that he drove about here, dressed as Santa Claus, and said, go get the pipes, we're going to march through Te Aroha. And maybe somebody in here can remember that, but I'll tell you, as long as I live, that was a classic day for me. That's exactly what we did. Your daughters were involved, Fletch. Then we dressed them up as elves. And we found material, and that's one of my lasting memories of Bruce Morgan dressed as he did as Santa.
If you ever want to dance in the street at New Year, come to Waipu. So we used to camp up there with Bob and a whole bunch of other people, and then these drunken pipers would lead us down the main street of Waipu to see in the bells. It was really kind of odd because we were also being shepherded along by the community constable, which was But anyways, as you know, at New Year it's the Highland Games, right? The big thing of those Nova Scotian diaspora. And so there's all the stuff going on, right? There's the Highland Games, and there's the piping and the drumming and the dancing and all this rather precise but clean-cut stuff. And then there was Bruce and Devo. So these hairy, scary, tattooed dudes with these shagging great big swords. And there was a whole lot of people who want to have photos taken with them. I mean, you know, there you go. So, and had a bit of a competition really. It sort of circulate around, then go up to the boozer and then come back. And I really wanted to see who could get the most photos on the day. So people like me tried and failed vainly to keep up with them, which was probably just as well really. But yeah, so there's wonderful photos and a heap of them there of these guys with all these, it's kind of these Crocodile Dundee moments where, you know, they're completely shaggy at big swords and, you know, all the 14-year-olds want to have their photos taken with them. So, yeah, we used to have these clan days migrating around various towns around the Waikato and, yeah, Bruce and Devo front and centre. And, yeah, great lasting memories. Rest in peace.
Say something, but appreciate some emotion.
Yeah, I'm Pip. I first met Bruce through motorcycling. We were racing at Aroha, so I came and stayed here. We got into a big huge fight with some locals. We all got arrested and we locked up in the tower cells down here, and Bruce goes, Pip, that's that cop that wrote me a ticket! And, yeah, okay. And that's when he's called the cop up to the cell, and he goes, right in this place. There you go, you fucking cop! Then we all got beaten up again.
I think not long after that story, I'm Terry by the way, not long after that story, he said we were in the Pyro street races. And who should be the pace car for the Pyro street races but the same policeman who bore the brunt of Bruce's handiwork earlier on, or some weeks before, and so Bruce goes, oh, I don't want this pie anyway, jumps out of the truck and straight on the windscreen of his police car, puts the wipers on, and he knew who it was too. I think Bruce got in trouble for that again later. My lasting memory is going to have to be, a few years ago we went to the Bert Munro Memorial. Devo was there as well, and we were all wrapped up with autumn this, oh, it's cold, and the people who lived there, Kyle Anderson's cousin, and the people on the farm we were staying at, they were wandering around in gumboots and shorts and singing because they lived in Gilbert. Well, it's not a problem. We were rugged up and looked outside, and there's Bruce. Bruce got a little tent, and his tent's not really big enough for him, so all there is the two skinny little legs. -5. How the hell he did it, I don't know. That will probably be my lasting memory of Bruce last night. A couple of skinny little legs sticking out of the tent. We had all layers of clothes on, we could shake a stick out. I think he was with us many years ago. We went for a ride. Like Catherine environs that we went to Wangata, and we were there, and because like the Highway 61, someone had been there previously, and so the police were sort of, oh, motorbikes, so they might be gang trouble again, so they turned up, and what gang you with, no gang that you know of, and so I said, well, where are you staying? We said, I don't really know, probably Holtwood Beach. So we rode back and went to the Corrigan pub, bought some beer, and we were trying to find some way of carting this beer. So we was like, oh, officer, you've got a car? You know, got a car. So we put all our beer in their car, and they took it to the beach for us, and somewhere in front of them, we got all the beer out of the police car, and off we had a great time. Go on and on.
I'm Bruce's, John's daughter. It's like, can't remember. I'm Judo. Hi. I just had this really great. We always used to come down here and go on these mad adventures with Bruce. And I've got this really awesome adventure of us going down the Waikato River, and Bruce was like, I've got these canoes, and it's perfectly safe, and Joe was with us. So we all take off, and I think Nation would have been about 4 in a canoe with my dad and Dee at the time. Bruce was in his own canoe, my sister Sharky was at the back, and me and Joe were in our own canoes, and we started off, and the river was really fast, and Bruce was like, oh, fucking hurry up, like, get out here, like, swearing away, and I was like, this isn't safe. My canoe flipped, so I get trapped between along. Dad's kind of like, just get back on it. Bruce's like, oh, fuck it. And so he just starts paddling, like going for it, leaving us behind. I lose my canoe. Joe's like, just jump on my canoe. So I'm holding onto his canoe while Joe's going down. You hit a rock, or a tree or something, and then your canoe went down, so both of us are on the side of the river going, what do we do now? And Bruce is just gone. He's like, you'll be fine, you'll work it out. We ended up coming back to Te Aroha, and I think it was only ended up being Bruce, Dad, and my sister that decided to continue on with this adventure. And we got to his house, and they weren't there, and we started worrying. We were like, you know, what if they flipped and got trapped, or and I think it must have been like 9 o'clock at night. They eventually come back probably in someone else's car in the back of the ute or something. And they'd found himself on some farm and got a cup of tea, and you know, they were like, I think I turned up for the costs with me, you know, got the local cop to come down, so I was like, they're trapped in the river, and Bruce was like, what have you done? I'm like, I said, we're fine. But yeah, there was just so many things like that.
Waihao River, actually, we've got in, and Bruce had supposedly done a whole lot of research on the river, which we quickly found out that never.
Hello, my name's Kelvin Sutherland. Bruce was my best friend. I just loved him so much. He was such good fun, and you could always count on him to laugh. And he was just so community-minded. He had time for everyone, and especially for children. I really loved that about Bruce. He would take so much time to impart his knowledge, especially for children, because he was just a big kid himself, and that's how I'll always remember him, as just being a big kid. And nothing was sacrosanct, everything was, yeah, just do it. Just, you know, to hell with consequences. Let's just be here to have a good time, and that was what life was about for Bruce. So if I can take that from him, that's the biggest thing I think that I can take from his life. And so you wouldn't find a person that would care for others any more than Bruce. And so this world will be a poorer place because of his death. And so I think that we'll all recall instances of him just imparting his wisdom, even though it mightn't seem like it at the time. But thinking back on all of his life that I can recall, which, yeah, I've known him for some time. And we also had some moments of indifference, like don't want to put it nastily at all, it's not. It was never nasty with Bruce, but there was always disagreements, and that was part of the fun of it all. And so I just loved how community-minded he was, and he's going to be missed greatly. One of his, we hear about his up-the-kilt business all the time, but one of his other favourite expressions was, it's all grand. Everything's grand. And I also liked his term of everything will just be swimmingly great. So he was such a positive person that it just rubbed off on everyone that he came in contact with. And so he'll be greatly missed. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm going to be the crybaby. I'm the kid. I'm Demon's daughter. Bruce's wife. I did write stuff down, but I'm just going to wing it. Because everyone's saying such a lot of stories from it's upset, but my best memory of Bruce is his house. His mindfuck of a gate to get in. And the toilet door that we was in the wrong way. So that was the one blank track to get to the house. And it's dangerous stairs to get to the rooftop. He never left Bruce's empty-handed, ever. So the whiskey, chili sauces, garlic, eggs, fruit. He stepped in when Dad died. He became a dad to us, and he had to be kids. And we went through a lot with it. And when I felt him, I could never think of him. He is one of a kind, and I remember going to the Highland Games with him and Dad, and I used to get pissed off because you couldn't walk any more than 2 or 3 metres without someone wanting a bloody photo. Couldn't have a conversation. As Noel was saying, it became a competition between these two. And Dad would come home going, I got more than Bruce today. Never got on the paper, and I think one of the papers got Dad and Bruce's name wrong, and well, they never left it down. Bruce's. I'm going to miss him hugely. It's a massive part of our lives. Thank you for sharing it with all of us. I also stand here on behalf of my sister and my brother who are in Australia, and my sister has given me a message to read out, and I'll do my best to do it. Sorry. Mr. Bruce, sorry I can't be there to be with you. I want to thank you for being a rock for a damn dear. I don't think you realised how much you helped us through that difficult time. Thank you for your continued support and love that you have given to me. You really did help heal our broken hearts. Unfortunately, now our hearts are broken again, but we have to have a chat when we think of you and Dad. For you, I need again. brothers from different mothers, as you would always say, we couldn't have been more. May you ride high, Mr. Bruce. Time for a new journey of mischief and adventure. I'll still text you on your birthday, Christmas, and of course International Whiskey Day. Big hugs and love to all your family and friends. Thoughts of you at this difficult time. And I must say, I still do have a big gallon of his whiskey at home there. Thank you, Bruce. And God, I expect some interesting visits from you and Dad.
There's always something to keep in these times. Just like my pack
Yeah, I've known Bruce for about 10 years, I suppose now. He's done a shitload of work on my motorbikes for me, you know. And yeah, that's a real sad thing too. You know, he's so much knowledge, you know. And I have to say, he's the most unique fella I've ever come across, you know. And bossy, oh man, he was bossy. That tweed jacket, I'll tell you a story about that. I was doing a Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. I went down and said, I need a tweed jacket, and I just can't get one. He goes, oh, try this on. Okay, so I tried it. That's really nice, you know, so I've got a couple. Yeah, you can't have that one. You have this one, it was full of holes. That was Bruce, you know. Lovely guy, fantastic guy. I'm going to miss him. You know. So he's so hard to find another bike like it, you know. Yeah, it's such a shame. But yeah, good on you, Bruce. Up the kilts, man. Yep. Good on you.
How about we all get Bruce and up the kilts? Count of 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. So our yarns, our laughs, our adventures. We're happy that Bruce has lived a full life. It'll resonate with us all. Be many a friend's tale. Farewell.
John, well done, mate.
Very good, Cal.
Gave me a head up.
You go for it.